So I feel like we were here in Arkansas a few years ago doing a very similar thing, but it was for a right height control valve. It did get fixed eventually. I think that was on a Beaver Marquee. Now this is a right height control valve. Well, hello guys, welcome to Greenville, South Carolina, and it's been about a year since I was here last. I had a customer that flew me all the way out here to rvmax.us in order to do an inspection on a Ford Travel, which I did document fairly elaborately, and we even did a follow-up video showing the condition of that Ford Travel. So the owner and his son Mayan really expressed a desire for me to come back and visit them and maybe do a little bit of work for them. Now with the last year, it's been a little bit hectic, and his schedule's been a little bit hectic too. But I was finally able to make it back here, even if it is December. We did make it in the year. They've really been keeping me quite busy doing repairs and inspections on what is a really nice inventory of RVs that he does have here. But they just pulled me off of doing all that because Mayan asked me if I could do a repair on this 2008 Navigator that they sold recently, which has a little bit of an air leak over time, huh?
Yes, it does have a bit of an air leak over time.
I understand it's leaning on the driver's side, rear, right?
Yes, driver's side rear.
Not in when you're driving down the road, just when you're parked and in leveling mode, right?
Yeah, just when you're leveled.
All right.
If you have it like on this, like, you know, where the back has to set down and the front has to raise, the front will hold.
Okay. It's just in the back, driver's side, when it's in level mode, not ride height mode. All right.
On the money.
You got my jacket.
Man, you on live?
Never live, never live.
Yeah, never live, yeah. Beautiful day in South Carolina, baby. Not raining.
It wasn't raining like when I got here.
That's right. Man, we're hooked on A to Z. It's between A and Z, everything. We're hooked on expert right there.
I know, you conned me into coming to South Carolina to do some inspections and easy work, and now I'm working on air suspension.
There you go. Hey, we worked on a Waffle House, pizzas. Hey, we love eating. I'm eating right now.
All right, thanks a lot, Jim.
Thank you.
All right, so it's going to be a little bit hard to see, but it is listing to the driver's side a little bit right there. I tell everybody I'm not a chassis technician and I don't like doing leveling systems, let alone air suspension systems, but you're just too kind and happy and nice, and you guys have been treating me way too well and feeding me way too much. So I'll get underneath there, we'll take a look at it and see if we can't find the problem. I imagine I know what that is. What I have the owner do is start the engine up, and we'll get the whole thing lifted as high off of the ground as we can, and then I'm going to crawl underneath. Make sure you get some jack stands underneath, because we don't want to die. We don't want this to be a tragic video. But the good news is, if you're watching this, I probably survived. All right, so this 2008 Navigator from Holiday Rambler is equipped with the top-of-the-line luxury air leveling system from Valid. Just uses the same airbags or air springs suspension uses when you're driving down the road. It's just going to hack into the system, and you can operate those airbags individually, keeping you level to the ground. So if you don't know what the air spring or airbag is, instead of having coil springs or leaf springs, these diesel pushers have an air ride cushion, which is like a tire on its side, which gives you a nice, comfortable ride and is an active suspension. The air leveling is going to tap into the airbag, into the airline that goes to the airbag, and if we needed to bring the passenger side up, it would add air to the airbag. If we needed to bring it down, it would exhaust air out of the airbag. That way we can keep it. Now this is a right height control valve. It looks like it's been replaced before. But if we look just above, we can see the Valid air leveling modules. They have coils for the valves, and then another bank over here. I think I can hear the leak. In fact, I'll get my soapy water. It's just a Windex bottle that Mayan made up a solution for me. And I suspect it's a lot of these push-in fittings. Now these are DOT fittings, but they do have O-rings that dry out over time. So I can see bubbles forming right there. And that's probably magnetic. That's probably easier. There we go. If I were to just slightly move this, you can see how well it's leaking there. I do have to remind you, if you're going to be underneath air suspension, to have a jack spring or a jack stand put underneath there so you don't die. But I've also positioned myself right next to the differential so I can't get crushed right there. I don't have my body underneath any part of the motorhome that can crush me should the worst thing happen. This is valid air ride. Let's say it's from Power Gear, but I think Power Gear just licensed the technology. It's all very frustrating, especially when you drop the flashlight. I'll check this back manifold too. It's very tight underneath here. Okay. Now ideally, because we put this on air leveling, we've bypassed the right height control valve right here. So there's really no air going through this. So you have the solenoid valves, which you either put it in right height control valve mode, allowing this to work, or it takes that out of the loop, and now we use the individual valves to raise or lower each individual set of airbags. So you can kind of see them. Well, one of them back there, and then another one is right there. And that's on the driver's side, which is the side that's leaking. So what I would probably recommend, because I've ran into this before, is to just replace all of those fittings for the airline. Right there is going into the valve body. You can hear the leaks pretty good. The valves themselves, Valid makes a pretty nice one compared to HWH. They don't usually have problems. The biggest problem I've ever found is if you get debris in there, it can jam up the valve from working correctly. So what I'm going to recommend we do is replace all those fittings and then test it again, because even though we may not eliminate that it's not leaking at one of the tanks, so there you can see, well, this is for the tow vehicle brake, but behind there, can we see? Right here, that's one of the service tanks or air tanks. So maybe there's leaks on that, but we don't really care, because once the air pressure gets to the valve body, it leaves the valve body and goes to the airbags individually. And so if the airbags are losing pressure, it's because it's leaking after the valve body there. So even if this tank went to zero, theoretically, airbags still shouldn't go to zero. I will show you guys one more thing since I'm under here and all crammed in place. But the Valid air leveling system has its own little reserve tank right here. You can see one of the controllers for it. It's a different story we'll get into. But that's it right here. It has its own drain, a pop-off valve right there. Nobody ever drains this out. That's why I said you can get rust and things into the system, because who's in the right mind's ever doing that? But we should probably check all of these fittings too. Alright, well I think we successfully troubleshot an air leak. That's what I'm calling it. I think there's another one inside too. Now we've definitely lost a lot of air pressure at this point. When I crawled in, I got out from underneath the Aqua Hot manifold, and oh, I can't get underneath it now. It's definitely come down at least 3 or 4 inches. But luckily, they did put a jack stand down for me, so that it won't get crushed by the mammoth behemoth of Navigator. And because it was only leaking on the driver's side, there's space on the passenger side to get out. Now, while I would say it's usually easier just to choose an arbitrary point on the concrete down below, measure it up to a fixed point right here. We're about 43 1/4. I usually write on the concrete the measurement of that, because if it's a really slow leak, it might take a few hours to drain down, and it's important to know where we're actually lowering. All right, So this one's at 42 and a half. So, all right, a little over an inch we dropped, right? Well, 3/4 of an inch. I don't know. So I think we successfully troubleshot the air leak there. Now, I don't know if it was just one corner that was dropping, because this does have another valve body for the front too, which is used to control the airbags on the front axle. And of course the Roadmaster chassis has airbags on the front and the back, and I think we could easily recommend some new airbags while we're at it. But we'll go take a look at that manifold too. And I swear I am not a chassis technician. It's just one of the problems you'll find with the air leveling system is that chassis technicians don't know the air computer controlled side of it as far as leveling, and RV technicians don't always understand the air ride height, the leveling side of it. And so you get in that netherworld of not my job, and so nobody really wants to work on it. So you kind of have to know a little bit more about the system. And that's why I'm doing this. All right, so on the front axle right here, right above here, we can see the other tank, the service tank, the supply tank that comes from the air compressor in the back. I don't think this is like Ford Travel that has a wet tank and 2 dry tanks, but there's the front one. Right here is the front ride height control valve. On the Roadmaster, you have 1 in the front and then 2 on the rear. Some chassis will have 2 in the front and 1 in the rear. That's very frustrating too. You can definitely tell we're in leveling mode right now because that arm is down, so if you're trying to dump air out of the airbags to get that arm to be level again. So we're not even using the ride height. And then if we crawl in here, I'm almost there. Right above here you can find that forward manifold. Okay, there we go. I don't hear air leaking from this one. But I did have the owner go ahead and raise up all the airbags manually as high as they would go, and they were only complaining about the driver, or the driver's side rear. I think we're pretty safe. That soapy water has got some smell to it, I guess. So it looks like this would be retract, because that's just going to an exhaust port right there. So if you want to air out manually, or the computer wants to get air out of the side, which would be likely this is the driver's side, that's the passenger side, driver's side dump, passenger side dump. So I would guess the top one's going to be driver's side raise, passenger side raise, and then the middle ones are probably taking it into ride height control valve mode. That'd be my guess without looking at it. Well, my guess is wrong. So the top one is ride height control valve mode. Looks like green is supply coming in. It's all very easy to see, right? But at any rate, we're not leaking up there. Now, if you're going to ask me what kind of fittings would we go with on this 1/4 inch line, would you go back to the push-in type? I would go back to the push-in type. It's going to be much easier to install when they're underneath right here. As long as they're DOT rated, you'll be fine. It does allow the line to swivel quite a bit, which is nice. The compression, I know some people might swear on compression fittings, but they're difficult to do in tight confines like this. And if you do it wrong, they're going to leak even worse. I would just do the push-in DOT. Either way, make sure they're DOT approved. They're a lot more expensive than the off-the-shelf parts. All right, I'll just go ahead and tell the owner of this beautiful Navigator what I found. I think he's going to be pretty pleased with it. He's really seemed to enjoy this motorhome. It's almost like they built them pretty well in Oregon. An air leak and a water leak are very similar, so it goes to the weak point first. You fix the weak one, and then it has enough pressure to go to the next one, and it has enough pressure to go to the next one, so I would just do all of them.
Understood.
It's going to be probably cheaper to get them in the bulk anyways. Okay. Do it. And while you're under there, get them all done out of the way.
Okay.
All right. We're going to go ahead and try to get it fixed, I guess. So we got some wooden blocks we're going to put underneath the wheels there to get it safely off the ground, because in order to take those fittings off, to match them up for new ones, we're going to let all the air pressure out. You don't want to be underneath an RV when you let all the air pressure out. That's how you don't make a conclusion to the video. All right, next step is to let the air out. All right, I'm underneath here, and look at that, my hand's under the tire. We got a lot of room underneath the differential right here. What we're gonna do is take off the fittings so we can match them up. We drained out the air pressure, and first thing we'll do. All right, and then we're gonna do a straight one here. Push it in, and then pull it out. Okay, all right, this looks like it's a 9/16 on this fitting, so we'll hold the one side. It's a little bit tight, but we'll get it.
I do have an impact, a battery impact gun.
So what I'm going to do is just recommend we get about 10 of each of all these fittings, just in case we get some bad ones. And you can take back what you don't need, but it's probably best to have extras anyways because there's a manifold up front. Alright, so I'm going to send Mayan to go get some fittings, make sure they're DOT approved, and then we'll get them installed and test it out. I can't believe you dragged me to South Carolina to work on air suspension. Here you go.
Thank you, kind sir.
You know what to get. 10 of each.
These are some jewels.
Fleet pride for the win, hopefully. Secret access up here. Thank you so much. Alright, so put the new fittings on. Kind of the nice thing about these is that they already have sealant on them, and like I said, they do swivel. So I'll just be replacing the fittings, and then we'll fire it up and see if we got any more leaks. I will leave you with this before I finish putting out the fittings. Unsurprisingly, nobody had all the parts we needed. So I won't be able to replace every single fitting. Apparently, the computer system went down, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago, and they still can't get their stock order in because supply chain issues. Alright, so that manifold's pretty much had everything replaced on it except for that one because, well, supply chain issues. Now over in this manifold, I just disconnected this tanned air line, and if you look, it just loops back over to the right height control valve over here. So like I said, it just bypasses that. It's tight under here, and I'm getting filthy. I'm sure a lot of you are already saying, you can't just clean it off. There's going to be an indentation of the last thing. I did get a brand new pair of tubing cutters for just such an occasion. And for those of you wondering, there is a check valve in the system. There it is. Air can come in and supply this side, but it won't go back that way. I do need to put some sealant on, which is why I got some sealant. And then for those of you wondering why we wanted swivel nuts or swivel elbows, it was not a swivel elbow. So if it was just a normal elbow and I tried to tighten it up, it would hit that cross member frame. I wouldn't be able to turn it anymore. But because it swivels, I can still tighten it up without taking the manifold off. And I don't have to worry about where it lands when it's all tightened. Alright, now it's tight. And now I should swivel it around so the tubing can hook up. So much easier than a compression fitting would have been. Alright, so with that, I've replaced all the fittings that I have available to me on both of those manifolds and the ones that we saw were leaking. Now it's time to fire it up and check it for leaks and see if it settles. If it settles, just repeat until you get rid of all the air leaks. No, let's go ahead and fire it up.
Start it?
Yes. And then the 12-volt air compressor got relocated up here. It's pretty clever. Alright, well, we are building up air pressure. Almost to 65. Now, truth be told, there's a pretty big air leak from the park brake right here. But that's a different repair to be done at a different time. But we are making up pressure and the low air buzzer turned off. So basically, once we get up to pressure, we'll go ahead and turn the air suspension on and bring it back up again and check for leaks while we're under there. Alright, the governor for the air system just kicked off, so we'll go ahead and put it into manual mode. And we'll go ahead and lift this thing all the way up. So right now we're pretty flat, and ooh, look at that. Adding some air to the system. Yeah, now it's coming up. That's an airbag that's filling up. Along with that one right there. That should be good. You want to go ahead and take it off a high idle and turn it off. Crawling back under again. Strong soap. So I'm calling it. It's pretty late at night. We got a lot of extra fittings here for the next guy if they need them. And all we can do now is clean up and wait. All right, well, I'm gonna leave all this stuff here. Pull the coach out tomorrow. It'll be easier to clean up. And we'll see how it settles overnight. Just remember, where'd it go? I'm already lost. Oh. So the pressure goes to the manifold, and after the manifold, that's where it goes to the airbags. So as long as we're not leaking from the airbags to the manifold, it shouldn't settle. If we're leaking from the supply side to the tank, that's a different problem. It has nothing to do with the manifold. And it is definitely not uncommon for tanks to lose pressure within an hour. So you're never going to eliminate every single air leak possible. Oh, I almost died. So right now he's just leveling it where it's going to be. You can hear that exhaust coming out the manifold. We've definitely dropped down a lot. It's a more comfortable level position. You all level?
I think so, yeah. It just went to...
Yeah, the maintenance mode. Uh-huh.
Within an hour, it was probably, you know, a little over an hour. It was probably already
Okay.
trying to refill itself.
It was really just on the driver's side, right?
Driver's rear, yeah. That driver's rear corner was the main thing. But I mean, eventually it would go all the way down because it couldn't keep up with it. That compressor couldn't keep up. So
Right. All right, well, see how it goes.
we shall see. Excited.
And just for a good measure, we'll take a measurement. We're right at 31 inches there, down to the middle. Well, it's nighttime here in Greenville, South Carolina at rvmax.us. I'll probably clean up, get something to eat, and check back, I guess, in an hour. And hopefully still at 31 inches. Now let me give you guys a little bit of an inside secret about working on suspensions. I don't like doing it, not just because it's dirty, horrible, unrewarding work, but also because with air leaks, like I said, you fix one leak, it finds the next weak point, and these things always have air leaks. So you can invest hours and hours and hours and get rid of almost all the air leaks. And then the customer takes it overnight and they said, well, it still settles. Not as fast. And then they don't want to pay you. And you have like 12 hours into work that nobody wants to pay you for because it's not 100% perfect. And it gets very uncomfortable for all of us. Because you're right, you should be paying the technician to fix the job, but also if you got hours and hours and hours into it, I don't think they should be working for free either. It's a gorgeous 8 o'clock December morning here at rvmax.us. Let's see if that suspension made it through the night without settling. And congratulations to the new owners of this Meridian. They're on their way to more adventures. They're incredibly nice people, and I wish them nothing but success and happiness. All right, I guess first things first. Looks really straight to me. You guys remember what we were? All right, so I think it was 31. And you know what? Maybe it dropped 1/8 of an inch. But for me, I'm calling that success. Oh, jeez. Smacked my head really good last night. So the great news is it looks like we did fix the air leaks on the suspension. But after that, here at rvmax.us, I'm gonna catch a flight back home and try to enjoy the holiday season with my family. They've got a lot for me to do still. Back to work. And if I don't see you guys before next year, I just want to say thank you very much for all the support everybody's been giving me. I also want to thank everybody else here at rvmax.us. Incredibly kind. And I think I can go a few days without eating thanks to them. Bye. Happy New Year. Definitely already recommended. Oh, I lost something. Oh, I left it out there. Come back. Hey, Mayan, you there? Okay.
No.
Can you hand me the sippy water on the other side? I left the spray bottle there. Thank you. Appreciate it. The air leveling is going to tap into the airbag, into the airline that goes to the airbag, and if we needed to bring the passenger side up, it would add air to the airbag. If we needed to bring it down, it would exhaust air out of the airbag. That way we can keep the coach level. Busy at work here at rvmax.us. Mayan and his skateboard. Nice to meet you too. Have a good trip. Where are you off to?
We're heading home, Central Texas,
Okay.
outside of the Austin area.
That should be pretty good weather too though.
I hope so.
All right. Have a safe trip.